Hi everyone, this is Jerry. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a really quick speed Copic coloring to share. It is a card that I've created for my granddaughter Emma, who just turned 11. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that she just turned 11. This card was created using a Mo Manning digital image, which I've printed out on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock using my Canon printer. This image is a really sweet drawing of a little girl hugging her dog, and it could be used for so many things. I think it would be a really sweet card for someone who's going through a really tough time, or somebody who maybe just lost a pet. But when I saw the image, I immediately knew that I wanted to use it for Emma's birthday card because her very best friend in the world is her dog Simba. Simba was a rescue dog. They got him just a little over a year ago, or maybe it was actually just under a year ago. He has a brindle coat, and he is the most loving and sweetest dog you've ever met. I wasn't really quite sure how to tackle the brindle coat, so I kind of just played it by ear, but in the end I thought it turned out just fine. It really does look like him, and as soon as she saw the card, she knew who it was, and she said it was her very favorite card she's ever gotten, so that just made my heart melt. So I started out with some colors that I chose that I thought matched his fur the best. And that was Copic Colors E29, E25, and E21. And I started by taking the lightest color, which is the E21, and just putting some little stripes on his image there. And really, the only reason I did this was to give me a starting point, because he has these sort of almost orangish looking stripes that go through him. And I wanted to give myself a reminder to keep those areas lighter than everything else. So as you can see here, as I went straight into my darker color, I am trying to keep some of those areas lighter and sort of stripey looking. I'm also trying to use the very tip of my marker. Here you see me cleaning up where I got outside of the lines by using my Copic colorless blender. And that's just a great tip if you get outside of the lines, to use that to push your color back inside the lines. But sometimes I have problems where I do that and then I go back and the color has sort of seeped back out or bled back outside of the lines, like it did here on her dress. So what you see me doing here is cleaning it up and then shooting it really quickly with my heat tool. And that was just something I tried one day and it worked. And I thought I would share that with you. I think what happens is, when you're cleaning that up with your colorless blender, if the colorless blender, if it takes a little bit for it to dry, then it gives that ink a chance to bleed back out into the area that you're trying to clean up. So by heating it up with your heat tool, it makes that ink dry quicker and keeps that that ink from seeping back out into your area that you're trying to keep clean. Give it a try. It works for me. Hopefully it would work for you too, because sometimes you can have those pesky little areas and you work so hard on your projects and you don't want to have to start over from scratch. That's for sure. So here you see me starting on her skin tones. And the skin tones I use for this image are E04, E11, E00, and E000. So I'm also doing her skin tones here from dark to light, starting with the E04, and I'm just putting a very little bit of color in the areas that would be the most shaded. And then I take the E11 marker and just barely touch down on those areas where I've already put in the E04, but I just extend that out just a very little bit. And then the E00, I do that. I do the same thing. I touch down on the color and bring it out just a little bit leaving only just the highlighted areas left for the E000. And then I go in and I repeat all of these steps again like I'm doing here until I get it looking just blended and really smooth. So you want it really smooth. You want to do it opposite of what you would do for the dog's fur, and also opposite for what we would be doing for her hair. When I color in her hair, I'm going to do it a lot like I did the dog's fur. I'm going to be using the very tip of my marker and trying to create the tiniest little lines so that I show a lot of texture in her hair. As I'm coloring the rest of her, I'm going to go ahead and play some music, and then I'll pop back on and explain how I put the background together and how I finished up the card. Well, I have most of the coloring done. I have her hair and her skin done, and I'm just about ready to finish up with her little dress here. I just did some really super basic shading on that. Her very favorite color is the sort of tealish blue colors. And to be honest, I didn't have a lot of those markers in that exact shade of teal or blue-green. So I sort of improvised. I used a BG13, a BG32, and a BG11. And I just colored in her dress using those. And then I kind of did some of the darker shading with a G16. So Simba's collar in real life is teal blue, and he has sort of a plaid pattern on it, but I didn't necessarily make his collar plaid, but I did give it some little crisscross designs with the darker, with the BG13, I believe, and then colored it in with the lighter color. So for the sky, I decided after I had already colored in the image that I wanted to do a background of what looked like them looking out over a sunset or a horizon. And I showed this sky technique a few videos back on a video I did, and it is called Chloe and Escargot. And it's just a really basic technique that I use when putting clouds in the sky. And I start out by using a BG, either a BG 000 or a BG 000. And you make just some really simple cloud shapes with that. And then you use a C1 marker and go along the very bottom of each of those cloud shapes. Then you take a C0 marker and sort of flick that C1 color up into the cloud a little bit. And then you take a C00 marker and flick it up even farther into your cloud, just giving it a, better blend and kind of softening all of those lines. So next I was trying to map out with a pencil where my horizon line would be. And I had some ideas to make like a field out across there with maybe like rows of flowers or something. But in the end, I decided just to do a green field. But once I had that highlight, once I had the horizon mapped out, I was able to go ahead and start coloring in my sky. And I used the same marker that I used when I was creating the clouds. I used the BG quadruple 0 marker in this case. And the only real trick here is that you want to color around your cloud shape. You can go over the top line of your cloud that you created in the beginning, but you really want to try to not go over the gray part that you've colored in or the white part in the middle of your cloud. You want to leave that empty. Just go around that with your BG marker and color in your sky. And I usually try to work in the same area so that it kind of prevents too much streaking. And I also try to go around my image and flick outward. Now, I was having some issues with this because I ideally would have done the background, the sky and the ground and everything prior to coloring in my image. But I didn't really know or figure out what I wanted to do until I'd already gotten the image colored. So, but I wish I would have, because it would have saved me a lot of time. I had to go really slowly around the image. I kept pulling some of the brown off of the dog into the sky, and then I'd have to go up and get that cleaned up. So it did give me a little bit of trouble. And quite honestly, if I would have done her dress in something a little bit brighter, or like a red or something like that, it just would have been a disaster. So it's always best to do a background before you color in your image, whatever that background might be. So I decided also that I was going to do a scene where it looks like they're watching a sunset. So I'm just pulling out my Copic chart here and trying to decide which color I want to use for the grass or the field that they're sitting in. And so I chose Copic color G21, and I start by just going along her shape there and flicking it out slowly. I put my marker down next to the line of like her knee right there, and then I flick it out toward the edge of the card. And I'm going to do this all the way around the image. And it's always best, you notice I turn my paper. It usually works best if you flick your marker away from you for some reason, or at least it is for me. To do that flicking motion away from me is a little easier, a little more natural. And with the dog, since I'd had so many issues, I actually made an outline around him to kind of help me to keep getting that color into my green. And then, of course, I wanted to lay some green underneath them to give them a ground to sit on as well. And then once I get this colored in with my G21 marker, I go in with my G24, and I just create some very subtle shadows with the G24. I didn't want too many. And I also didn't want the shadows to be really dark. So I just used the G24 marker, and then I let that Copic ink dry. And then I went back in with the G24 marker and just deepened it up just a little bit more. And then I just did a little bit of highlighting on her dress with a white Prismacolor pencil. I do apologize, I did not get it on the video, but I did take some Tim Holtz Distress ink and brushed on a little bit of orange along the horizon line there for a sunset. And then I cut this cardstock down and mounted it on a piece of pattern paper, added a little sentiment and a metal heart, kept it really plain and simple since I had done so much work on the coloring. And I thought it turned out really cute. Like I said, she really loved it. And I hope you loved my video today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and click that subscribe button for future videos. And you can visit my blog at abushelandahug.blogspot.com for more card and craft ideas. Thanks and have an amazing day.